Welcome to Wealthy Mind, where we talk about all things finances, the good, the bad, the ugly, and the surprising.
Welcome to Wealthy Mind. I am your host, Misty Rosegold, International Success Coach, and we are ensuring that you have a wealthy mind and maintain your wealthy mind. So today I have with me Marla DiCarlo. Did I say that right?
You did.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited for our conversation today. I absolutely love the space that you have stepped into and who you are as a person. So, would you please share with our audience what is the name of your business and what do you do?
Yeah. So the name of my business is Biz Navigators, and we are business brokers. But more than that, so we help entrepreneurs not only to exit a business, but also to prepare to exit, which is
Mm,
very important to me.
yes, two different things. Preparing to exit and then the exit itself.
Yes.
Which
Yeah.
one would you like to talk about first?
Oh gosh, I'll talk any day about preparing to exit. That's my heart.
Okay, let's talk about preparing to exit. So, if somebody wants to sell their business, what do they do? What's the first step?
Yeah. So, um, the first step that they're going to think they need to focus on is to get that valuation. And
Mm,
that is very important, but there's so much more to selling a business than the valuation. So the first step that they really need to take is to understand how their business compares to other businesses that have sold as far as being okay business,
mm,
an average business, and a premium business. That's really the first step.
hmm. So, look at comps. Like when you're selling a house, look at comps, right?
Comps, but it's more than that. It's the drivers of value. How does their business
Hmm.
compare to other businesses that have successfully sold? Because that's really going to help them to understand areas that they maybe still need to work on. I have so many business owners that come to me, and there's usually a category of reasons why they're exiting, but the most common, especially in the lower market. And when I say lower market, pick a number. It could be 5 million in revenue, it could be 10 million in revenue, but it's lower market, for sure below
Hmm.
5 million. And the most common reason why they're wanting to sell is they're burnt out. They're done.
Oh,
And that's never a reason to sell. And
yeah,
when you
that's
start
something
thinking
that we need to fix.
something we need to fix, and something, quite frankly, unfortunately, a lot of times they have waited too long to say that out loud, is how I would, frame it. They have been, and I'm going to back up for a minute. I understand why business owners do it. So this is my fourth business.
Mm,
I've exited two successfully,
mhm.
two, there's stories around them.
Yeah.
And what I always talk about, and I know you're going to understand this because this is common in every business, you often as a business owner have these blinders on, and you're just looking, tunnel vision, just thinking about, oh, how do I get that next sale?
Hmm.
How do I hire the next employee?
Hmm.
How do I get myself out of the day-to-day trenches? That is the common business owner journey. And so what happens is, unfortunately, is sometimes that tunnel vision creates a situation where that business owner is not making good decisions,
Right.
and they don't even realize they're doing it, right?
Yep.
Yep. So they just keep doing it. They just keep doing it and day after day. And so then when they finally get to that place, and for everybody, it's different places where
Mhm.
they reach that, I've had enough. I can't do it anymore. That
Mhm.
is the wrong reason to sell. And they probably have not even thought about, have I created a business that's even sellable? So, to help a business owner come back to that first question you asked, what is the number one step that they should take? You should, from day one, be working on a business that is a sellable business that creates options for you, regardless if you want to sell or not sell, if you want to sell in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. Day one, you have to have that mindset in place, take those blinders off, think about these other drivers of value because it's really the secret sauce behind what makes a profitable, scalable business,
Mm.
you know?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Girl, you are speaking my language.
We're
I,
gonna have some fun.
yeah, we are. I always ask people, okay, let's put it this way. If you were an investor, would you buy your company? And all the
Okay.
answers to why they wouldn't, let's work on those.
Yes. Yes. I often talk about the buyer's lens. So what I tell a business owner to do is okay, we're going to put on glasses and I want you to look through the lens of a buyer. And I want you to look at your business and would you buy your business?
Hmm.
So same language. And
Hmm.
oftentimes I just had this conversation yesterday. It's coming to me right now with what you're saying. It's a salon owner, and he and his wife have been building the salon for, I think they're going on 10 years now, and they
Okay.
really have a revolutionary type of way that they cut hair. It's a different. It's not like just cutting normal hair. They really focus on um, certain texture and things like that. And the thing was, when we started talking, he thought he was coming into the conversations to talk about valuation. And that was my intention. But as we started digging into the financials and we started talking about some of the hiring decisions that he's made,
Hmm.
including family members,
Mm.
by the time we were done, he went, oh my gosh, like you just gave me so much more to think about. I hadn't even realized some of these things that are obviously in front of me, but
Hmm.
it was putting on those buyer glasses and helping him look at his business in a different way. That then it was obvious the changes he needed to make and still work on before he even thought about selling his business because he's leaving money on the table. Can he sell his business? Absolutely. He's got a differentiator, he's got some growth, he is making some cash flow. But I
Hmm.
mean, I'm talking he's probably leaving easily 500,000 to $1 million on the table if he sells right now versus the things we uncovered and going on working on those, value drivers of
Mm.
value. Yeah.
I love that. So you can get people a greater ROI on their exit.
Yeah.
Yes, if we do the right exit planning. Mm. This is so
Yeah.
good. It's so necessary for people to look at. And there's a lot of different factors in a successful exit that most people aren't aware of. So, culture being one of them. Like, if you were a buyer, would you want to buy up a business with a shitty culture? Pardon my French, but
No, but it's true.
would you want to? No. Okay,
Yeah.
so what is your culture? What's the pulse of your culture? Is it a collaborative culture? Do people love coming to work? Is it just meh, or is it toxic? Like, these are the
Yeah.
things that we have to evaluate if we're going to look at the greatest potential ROI for all of our time, effort, money, blood, sweat, tears, sleepless nights, joy, passion, dreams, all of it. Like,
Yes. All of it. Yes. Yeah. Well, and it funnels down. That culture is that is so important to a successful business because it
mm,
trickles down. It's not just culture for the internal, users, the internal employees of the business, it 100% trickles out to the external user.
Hmm.
And I always talk to business owners about, okay, here's a great way to understand this. Have you ever been in a restaurant where you're just like, man, the energy just doesn't feel good, right? Like you walk in and you just
Yeah.
from the moment from the front end, from the host that greets you to the bus people around, bus boys and women around you, and then the wait staff, and then watching the interaction between them, they take it out on their customers versus a restaurant you go into that you're like, there is something about this place. The energy
Mm,
feels good, the food is great, the people are fantastic.
right.
Well, the same thing can happen in a business. And if, especially in the world with pre-COVID, post-COVID, where that buyer shift happened, where people can do a smell test and see and feel if if somebody's authentic, if somebody's genuine, if they really are invested in them or they're just trying to pitch them a sale. And I think a lot of that coming out of COVID was this interaction. It's
Mm-hmm.
changed the way that we buy, it's changed the expectations that we have. And so if you have bad culture in your company, it's just toxic and a deal breaker. And a buyer is not going to buy into that.
Mm,
And the same on the buyer side. I talk to buyers where I know I've got a great company, and that buyer comes in with an attitude or just, you can tell from their bio, this is not somebody that I want to align with this company because the culture is so different.
mm. Okay. So you really work to protect your sellers as well.
Absolutely. And quite frankly, Misty, I think there's two things in business brokerage and in the lower market that stands out to me. One is it being very transactional. And
Mm-hmm.
then the second part is um, a lot of brokers, unfortunately, because it is transactional, do not invest the time into understanding what the seller's expectations are post closing and who is the right persona for purchasing their business. And unfortunately, sometimes they just look for a warm body to just
Mm,
plug in to make the sale. And they're
mm.
not thinking about it. And so there's unfortunately, a lot of bad stories out there about, sellers selling to a buyer and a buyer collapsing the business because they
I've,
should never have bought that business.
yep. I've heard a lot of those stories and I've listened to a lot of those pain points and I've listened to other brokers that are in more of the transactional space, like at a loss. They're not sure what to do. So I appreciate how you're showing up. I appreciate that you're raising the bar in your industry because you're working with the 1 to 10 million bracket and M&A spaces, above that.
Yep.
But you're really setting the bar for your industry to say, "Hey guys, here's how it's done. Now I welcome you to mimic me. I welcome you to replicate what I'm doing." And set yourself up as the expert. And I love that because I mean, if I'm going to sell a company, I want to know that the buyer that's coming in isn't going to come and trash my company.
Right. I mean, can you imagine spending years of your life? I always say blood, sweat, and tears is not a cliche when you're a small business owner
Nope.
because those are literal, like,
Yes, they are.
right? So can you imagine like a business owner who has created this thing and invested all this blood, sweat, and tears into growing this business, and now they're ready to take this exit. And for many, that exit is life changing. I mean,
Mm,
that is their retirement. That's
mm,
how they're going to pay for their kids' college. It's important to them. This isn't a
mm-hmm,
transaction. This
mm-hmm,
is once in a lifetime event. And so you go through all of that. And then you find out, well, great. After all that blood, sweat, and tears I've invested, I just sold to the wrong person
Mm.
and I can't rewind it, or sometimes, if there's an earnout or they've lost money, or if there's a seller financing note, the buyer's not able to pay them back. And those are the horror stories. That's the thing in the business brokerage space that I saw right away. And I went, wow, that's got to change. That there's something that we've got to do to what you just said, raise that bar so that then we're educating the business owners who are selling so that they expect something more and
Mm-hmm.
they're asking better questions. And the brokers themselves, too, start to question how they're showing up, how
Mm-hmm.
they're contributing, right, to that
Mm-hmm.
transactional process. And I am seeing more and more of that, and it makes me so happy.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
very good. Well, I'm excited that you are raising the bar, and I'm excited to see what you do in that space. So, what do you have coming up in your business that you're excited about?
Yeah, gosh. I've got a couple of things. Um, I wanted to give you a moment. Are you okay? Okay. I've got a couple of things coming up in my business. One is I'm working on uh, I'm working in unison with a provider that has figured out how to create software to help a business owner with the transaction of selling their business. But it's not just for a business owner, it could also be for an advisor. And it's great software. I use it myself for walking through the transactions. What we realized, because he's put this together and he's been running it for about 6 years now and had great traction, that there was a component missing. We were just talking about this actually before your podcast, that business owners are busy and most business owners have not been through a transaction, an acquisition, and so they don't even know what to expect. The process is very
Correct.
frightening, right? The
Yes.
unknown, and then they go and Google and some of the horror stories pop out, or their CPA saying this, their attorney saying this, their best friend saying this. They're
Yeah.
like, where do I go? I don't know who to believe. So what we realized is that by adding some education to
Mm-hmm.
help them understand the process, to so that way now knowledge is power. So now they understand what happens in a transaction, and giving them opportunities to work on their business, but then providing that advisory support
Mm-hmm.
that comes alongside of them and walks them through the process. So this is meant to be for those business owners who, um, unfortunately, they aren't going to make a ton of money off their business, but they're ready to sell. And unfortunately, most brokerage companies charge a minimum fee of $25,000. And that doesn't matter if it's a $100,000 business.
Okay.
And that's not always needed. Like sometimes there is an environment where they could walk through the process on their own if they had support, if they have the tools, if they have the education. So this platform
Mm.
provides that to them to be able to sell. And again, it's going back to my heart for small business owners and wanting them to walk away with the best outcome. I don't want
Yeah.
somebody to just throw up their hands and go, oh, well, I'm just going to close my business. Either work on it, find the right solution, or,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Yeah, I love that. I love that you're creating a platform or working with somebody who's created a platform so that business owners can make informed decisions
yeah,
about the exit process and what goes into that because it is quite the process.
yeah,
And then which expert do they need to seek out to solve each challenge or each problem? I don't like the word problem. I always say challenge, but to solve each challenge. Because for me, I just see things as challenges Like, I don't see problems. Problems are, that's a really negative word. And
Mm,
there's always a solution, but sometimes you don't have that solution. Sometimes it's an expert outside of yourself that has that solution.
yeah.
And like you're helping them see, okay, I need this type of expert for here. I need this one for here. I need this one for here. Now let me go solve all these.
Yes.
But that
Yeah.
means the business owner has to get out of their own way, step outside of their ego for a second, and realize that if I'm going to build an effective empire, I have to have an army behind me.
Yes. That that team is so important to a business owner's success.
Mm.
And also one of the reasons why I've seen the difference between a business owner being reactive and a business owner being proactive. If they have a team that they can go to, hey, this has come up. I've never been through this before. How would you suggest I handle this? What has been your, experience?
Hmm.
What would you suggest that I do? To be able to have that guidance and support just helps them to make better decisions versus, well, I've already done this, now how do I fix it?
Hmm. Hmm.
you know,
Yeah.
the masterminds like what you do, I'm such a huge fan of those because power in the team, power in the tribe, to be
Yes.
able to come together, and collaboratively work with each other because John may have never been through any of the situations that Tom's going through, and Mary may have gone through all of them. But then to have someone like you who comes alongside and just helps them to navigate that and get through some of this, it's really important. I think business owners undervalue the power of a coach. I really do.
Some do, but some don't. Some understand how incredibly value it is to have an outside perspective and somebody that you can trust, that is your trusted advisor that you can bounce stuff off of. You don't feel alone anymore. It's a game changer for
It really
everybody
is.
who finds the
Yeah,
right coach. It's a game changer for my clients. It's a game changer for other coaches that I know that are good coaches. And the business owner is able to trust them to fulfill whatever role that they need them to fulfill. And then the coach isn't emotionally attached to the business. So we're
right.
able to see it more objectively. It is, right? So this is why
Yeah.
you need advisors outside of the business that aren't getting a paycheck. Yes, you're paying them, but they're not a W-2 employee. It's such a different perspective and a different mindset. And the value that you get from bringing in that outside person
Yeah.
is priceless if it's the right coach.
The right coach. That's very important. Um, yeah, I mean, one of the things, what you said about, that arm's length, like not being emotionally involved,
Mhm.
yes, you care.
Oh, of
Yes, you're
course.
right. Well, we just talked about that before this podcast. We're both people that care very deeply about
Hmm.
others and wanting to help, them
Yeah.
navigate this world, right?
Yes.
Um, so yeah, so there, I think, but the difference is that like I go back to my fractional CFO company that I always talk about. I ran that for almost 10 years and
Mm.
then I sold that to private equity. And that was definitely one of those life-changing moments for me because it wasn't that the group was bad. They're a fantastic group. They're an incredible group that's doing a lot of good helping business owners. It just wasn't the right fit for me. And I
Mm.
didn't know that. I'd been through several transactions, so I went in approaching it not emotional, like thinking there's no emotions tied to this,
Hmm.
that this is just a transaction. I hate to use that word, but that's how I treated it. When I got into that environment, I went, oh my gosh, what have I done? and again, it has nothing to do. They have a fantastic team. They
Yeah.
they are amazing, seasoned, CPAs and CFOs and,
Hmm.
private equity, history, like really good people. It was me. It was I had not thought through how what hard it would be. Was I prepared to give up the control of my company and
Mm,
still be a part of it ongoing? And I
mm,
wasn't, because they were looking at it through a different lens. They were looking at it through a lens of, okay, she's created great bones. She's got an infrastructure here. Love the employees, love the services, but there's changes we want to make because we want more, at the bottom line, which is the way a lot of those groups, that is what they're focused on. They've got a
hmm.
3 to 5 year turnaround. And I didn't realize, oh my goodness, you're not going to fire my employee. And you're not going to let go this customer. Do you know the history of this person? And there was a
Mm,
lot connected emotionally
yeah,
with that transaction. That is most business owners. That's
yeah.
the majority. I've had people challenge me on that and saying, well, no, don't you think that's just lower market? No, I don't, because I've worked middle market deals, where there's a full C-suite and, the owner is ready to exit, is prepared for that exit. And they were the ones that I'm having a conversation with on the phone the day before closing, talking through whether or not they want to go through with the transaction, because there
Mm,
is emotions involved.
right.
There's a legacy.
And
So,
if, excuse me, if they're a good leader, they're going to be thinking about the impact that it has on everybody that they're leaving behind.
yes. Yeah. It's funny because sometimes business owners will come in, and I can think of three right now that I've sold in the last couple of years, that they came in strong, just, independent, just really just, they're ready to do this. They prepared for this. And when we were talking through who is the right buyer, what do your post-closing objectives look like? What do
Hmm.
you want to happen? They approached it in the beginning kind of like, I just want to sell the company. I don't really care. And I thought, huh, I think you care more than you
Mm,
think you do.
mm,
It
right.
was when we got through, it's when we started the process. So like that first buyer introduction,
Mm,
and we hung up the phone. What do you think? And mind you, I'm a person that I vet my buyers. I've already interviewed that buyer. I've already checked the boxes that I thought were a good fit
hmm.
and brought them now to the seller, and hung up the phone, and that business owner said, "No way." And I'm like, "Really?" And it wasn't because of funding, and it wasn't because of experience, because I've already checked those boxes. What it turned out to be was, oh, interesting. That's okay. This is a good thing. There was more of an emotional connection to the business than you realized.
That's
And there was
good.
just some things that they saw that I didn't know about yet, that they said, I don't think this is going to be a good fit for the company.
Mm,
Great. That's why we do this. Okay, now let's dive into that. Why is that? And let's make sure we're looking for the persona of who is a good fit. And so anyway, again, I can think of several situations where nope, I'm just ready to sell, but then once they get into it, oh, there's more there tied to the business than you thought there was. And that's
yeah,
okay. That there's nothing wrong with that. Like that's a normal part of the process.
I love your process. I
Thank
just
you.
I just was able to breathe easier for the business community because your process is organic. And when I say organic, like there's a natural process in my coaching as well. And I let that unfold, and you let your process unfold with your people, and you know that it's going to. So you're not just steamrolling them from the front end, which is great. You're like, this is going to unfold, and it's going to take a couple of these to let that happen. And, I love that you're showing up very organically. It's not abrasive, it's not forceful, it's not It's not anything but like amazing. So
Thank you.
I really appreciate you doing that. And I can see it because I am a coach. I see all of that unfolding and just how good it is for the seller and the buyer for you to let those things unfold naturally and to bring to the surface the truth. Because ultimately, that's what it is. You're bringing the truth to the surface, but it's not like preaching at people, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, thank you, Misty. That means a lot because that is my intention and my goal, is to make sure that that business owner um that one that they understand and they're ready to take the next steps. So, I've been through conversations with business owners where I've said to them, I really think you should go work on the business. I'm thinking of one right now that I had spoke to. And I said, you've got an amazing business, but you're just too early in selling it. And I really wish you would go work on it. And
Hmm.
here's the things, I do a 13-minute assessment that gives them a score in their value drivers. And so I gave that to them and I said, here's what you need to work on. They decided they didn't want an introduction to a coach because that's normally my next step
Right.
when I feel like they need to work on their business. And she said, no, I think we can work on it. Okay. She came back to me 4 months later and said, my husband and I have decided that we're ready. And there was some reasons behind why they decided
Mm,
to sell now. Um, and so I that was fine. At least now she had
right.
time to think about it. She knew her options and they decided this was the right time. I hate those calls that they've created a situation where they don't know how to dig out of it
Mm, yeah.
and they're mentally exhausted. I know these business owners because these are
Mhm.
the business owners you try to help. you know,
Some of them. Some
some of
are
them, the point.
some are in the mud, not all of them. So fortunately, I get a good mixture with my clients of what position they're in within their business. But it's much more challenging for those who are in the mud.
Yeah. Well, and sometimes don't you find that it's just maybe coming along because you can't help somebody who doesn't want to help themselves.
Mm,
So, if I'm being totally honest, one of the areas I've discovered as far as strengths and weaknesses as me as a coach, as an
mhm,
advisor, is I'm actually not very good at taking that person, to helping them to understand what they need to understand and then taking them through the next steps of doing that.
mm,
I'm a person who's excellent at getting them to the place where they understand what they need to work on and
love
then
it.
turning them over to somebody. I always say, like, I'm the person drag the horse to water, but you can't make them drink it. I'm like,
Yeah.
drink it.
And I'm the person who helps them drink it.
And
Yes.
that's the beauty of, again, the team,
Hmm. Hmm.
where I am very good at helping them to understand why it matters.
Mm,
What are the areas that are going to have give them the outcome that they're looking for, and then then work with someone who will come alongside of them and help them work through those steps. And that's hard to do. I think that's the other thing. I don't think we put enough value in that work that that business owner needs to do.
mm,
It's hard to take those next steps sometimes. And so having a professional makes it a lot easier, but it's a lot of work. You
hmm.
are a busy business owner, and
Right.
unfortunately, you're not going to dig yourself out of the trenches overnight. It's going to take some time, but man, when you get there, when you're no longer, drowning in work and hating taking customer calls and hating working with your employees or hiring or whatever, when you get to a place where, oh, I'm finally doing what I love, that's
Yeah.
so liberating. And those are the business owners that are
Mm.
ready to sell.
Yeah. And with me, I make sure to work on, are we fulfilled right now? You might want to exit in 10 years or 20 years, but are we fulfilled now? Let's not wait until the exit to, it's like destination syndrome. Let's be fulfilled now. Let's enjoy it now and let's figure out how to do that. Does it mean making everything more efficient? Does it mean creating a better culture? Does it mean you becoming a better leader? Does it mean having a better relationship with your customers? Whatever that looks like, let's find that fulfillment now. Are you going to delegate? Take some of the stuff off your plate and delegate, right?
Yeah.
I always say I love the ego of the entrepreneur, but I also hate it because the
Yep.
ego, it gets shit done, but it also prevents us from getting more done more effectively and more efficiently because if we're not willing to delegate, if we're not willing to release the reins and let go of control, guess what? The business is not going to fulfill us as much as it could. And this is where
Yes.
I want everyone at is I want you to be fulfilled now, today.
Yeah.
Let's work
I
on the
love that.
fulfillment within the business now.
Mm.
And then when you sell it, it's the icing on the cake.
And I, again, like when you say that, I think of two people that one in particular that did exactly that. Misty,
Mm.
like she worked on her business for, I mean, over 30 years, and she found fulfillment in her day to day of what she was doing. And then
I love it.
finally, she was at a place like, okay, I am now ready. She chose when she was ready to exit.
Mm.
And she is living the dream now. Like she's doing all the things she wanted to do after she closed, but they were new adventures. She didn't wait for, what did you say? Don't wait for the something destination.
Yeah, destination syndrome.
I love that. That is that us I can think of business owners that have come to me that said, "Oh, I just, I want to do this, I want to do that." Well, and I thought to myself, "Well, you should be able to do that now." I just was talking to somebody this morning that I said, for me, I set a hard rule probably 8 years ago, 10 years ago. I'm going to try not to work on weekends. Now, do I have to do that? Yes, every once in a while I do. There's
Yeah,
always outliers because I'm a business owner. But
right.
for the most part, I don't. And the reason why, one, my industry allows me to do that, but two, there's nothing that's going to break between Friday and Monday. And I'm not going to wait to exit my business to be able to spend time with my family and be able to take care of myself. And
Mm-hmm.
so that's really important. You should be able to run a business and still be able to prioritize the things that are important to you in your life. Don't wait for that
I
to
love it.
happen. Yeah.
Love it. I made a similar vow to myself in my 20s where I'm like, I'm not doing it if I can't be fulfilled and have internal peace. If I go slower than the average person, that's fine. But if I don't have internal peace, what's the point?
That was a lesson I had to learn just recently. You're lucky you learned it in your 20s because you probably have had peace a lot longer than I have. Uh, I
Yeah,
did not
I've,
realize that. Like, I didn't realize that because I am such a go-getter and I am so driven and I am, I am definitely an overachiever, but I can be all those things and not like still have peace. I
yeah.
don't, there's nothing wrong with organically growing a business at its normal pace and not pushing it to a level where you're breaking everyone around you,
And yeah, including yourself.
including yourself.
Mm.
Yeah. And so it's okay to be able to say, okay, I'm going to set goals. Those are important. You should have goals. It's okay to
Mhm.
be a driver. It's okay to
Mhm.
have, to want to win. There's nothing wrong
100%.
with that. But do it in a healthy way. Do it in a way where you're enjoying that journey.
Yes. So I found fulfillment really early in my 20s. And that's where I'm like, I just want to help others find fulfillment too. Because I figured to myself that the most meaningful part of life is fulfillment. So since I found that fulfillment for myself, I had arrived. I'm like, I've arrived. The rest is just cake from here. I mean, not easy, but it's the icing on the cake from here. I have found fulfillment. I'm going to stay fulfilled. I'm going to stay in an inner peace and do amazing things. Like,
Yeah.
I've created some amazing layers to my business over decades. When you make that kind of vow to yourself, it's a game changer. It's a decision. So,
Yeah.
anybody that's listening right now, I apologize for my voice, you guys. Anybody who's listening right now, I'm going to encourage you. We need to wrap up, so let's close with this. I'm going to encourage you that you draw that line in the sand now and make a firm decision and watch everything start shifting for you. Watch yourself make better decisions. Watch life and the universe support you. Like you're going to get so much support that you didn't even realize that was out there and available to you. It's when we make a decision, everything is based off of a firm decision. And draw that hard line in the sand that's like, nope, from here on out, I'm going to be fulfilled in my business. So that when it comes time to exit with Marla or whoever, that I'm going to exit and I'm going to exit well and it's going to be fulfilling. I'm not going to regret the last 10 years, the last 20 years. It's just going to be like, oh, cool, awesome. Like, this is amazing. The financial windfall is great. Now, what cool things can I go do with it? So draw that line in the sand right now and be fulfilled and have inner peace because you can. I have it. Marla has it. If we have it, anyone else can have it.
Wow. That's it. I have nothing to say.
Mic drop.
Drop the mic.
Well, now that we have brought it to that place, if the audience wants to reach out to you, what is one way that they can do so? We will provide a lot of different ways in the description, but what is one way?
Yeah. So they can always go to my website at biznavigators.com. And I encourage them. I've got blogs and the 13-minute assessment that I talked about and great information about what we've just discussed. And then they're welcome to reach out to me directly, Marla, Marla, at biznavigators.com.
Love it. Thank you, Marla, for this conversation. And I'm sure I'm going to have you back and we're going to have more conversations because we could keep going for hours. I'm like, oh, we got to get wrapping up. This is longer than I usually go, but that's okay. So everybody's going to forgive me because this was awesome. This is very hot topic, very good information, and just thank you. So let's go ahead and we will see you again another time. But until next time, you guys have a wonderful, wonderful week. Have a wonderful day. And remember to draw that line in the sand and make your decision to be fulfilled in your business today. Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to the Wealthy Mind podcast. Please be sure to download the Wealthy Mind app today and make sure to support your local Dress for Success.